and in so many ways, if we are not careful, maybe our actions and our lack of good judgment sometimes can create little problems for us. So tonight we're going to look at the public health aspect of things as it relates to the season we're in, and how all of that put together can make sense to us, so much so that we exercise good practices and do the right things so we do not end up in problems when all of the reveling and celebration and everything else is over. But before we get into all the discussion this evening, Doc, good evening and welcome. It's always such a pleasure to have you. How are you doing?
You don't sound so pleased.
I am. In fact, let me tell you. No. Let me tell you. I didn't want to say anything, but according to the local talk and the old people, I think you get a barrel. That pretty nice top you have, and I think you got a barrel.
That's an old top that I've been waiting for the last 6 months.
Well, I never see it yet.
But no, barrel too expensive. Barrel expensive, and then with all the craziness in North America, people afraid to shop.
Oh, it's lovely. It's
so
lovely.
Keep the money.
I love the colors.
You're gonna lose your job.
Yeah. It's lovely.
Thank you,
lovely.
So good evening to Grenada and to our friends who listen on radio, especially to my old people who listen every week on the radio, and to our friends in the diaspora, the people who are our faithful friends who always listen to us. Welcome, and to the new people who are joining us for the first time. I've met somebody today. Oh, I always listen to you. These people always book me up on a call. So I guess we're doing what we have to do for the community, and this is our gift for Grenada. And hopefully, as we say, every week, learn one thing new at least and apply it to your family life.
Yes.
You'll be surprised. If we have 40 weeks for the year, go figure, you can have 40 changes that you can apply for the well-being of your family, I tell your friends, your grandchildren, whatever.
Indeed.
And I want our older folk in particular, because we still have the power of our seniors to regulate what happens within our families. We don't have as many extended families because most people have their homes and they visit their grandparents and stuff. But I want our old people to recognize that our seniors, our very seniors, to recognize, one, they have the experience, they have seen it all, okay? Mm-hmm. And like they say, what we aiming at them shoot on long time, okay?
Oh yeah. Well,
I want them to. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that my father used to say, the sense you have in your head, I have it in my knee.
Oh, God, that is bad. That one hurts.
Well, meaning anything, the same thing you said, basically. Mm-hmm. So definitely.
And so we want to make sure that especially grandparents take over their role in really regulating the behaviors, especially the health behaviors in families. Okay, we see a lot of changes, and I'm going to ask parents to sometimes listen to the counsel of the aged, because they know what it is, what the challenges are. They have seen how the behaviors change. We're going to talk about, we're going to have a lecture on childhood obesity, and we go into the people who have already done the research to tell us what you have seen and what you have put in place, because we're really at the beginning of that racetrack, okay? It is going to be a very long racetrack if we don't take the counsel of the countries and the populations who have already visited childhood obesity as a problem, seen, have the evidence to prove what the problems are, right? What problems result from childhood obesity, and how they have approaches. So we can actually apply the approaches. How do we stop this? What diseases we're gonna stop? I'm just saying that if we listen to who has had the experience already, it may save us a lot of heartaches and a lot of expenditure and a lot of lives, to be exact.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
It's just summer, well, rain season for us. but it's a very hot time, and I'm seeing here, like in places like in the Mediterranean, Italy, Sicily, and the southern Italy and stuff, where they've had already temperatures reaching. This is July, okay, guys? We know July is hot, but 46 degrees centigrade. Today we were probably 35 or 36. So I'm telling you what it feels like if you're in 46 degrees temperature, especially if there's humidity. It is almost that you can't breathe because the air is almost as thick as jello. So we have to be aware and follow. You know, the meteorologists give us an advisory every day as to what the weather is going to be like. So you wear appropriate clothing, you make sure you have hydration and all the rest. But that's just general stuff. I've also seen some footage that has been put on social media. Have you seen the floods in Jersey and
yeah, I've been. Yes. I've been.
So that's all related to climate change, and climate change is something to which we are not immune. We don't have no vaccine for that one. So we're going to have to put on our common sense and figure out how we're going to navigate through the changes in climate. Because I don't remember it being so hot. I remember not liking to live in the Caribbean because of the heat, but now it's really, really 10 times as hot for me. And very unpleasant most days, especially with the humidity. And the humidity really represents how much water, how much moisture there is in the atmosphere. So it's okay. And if you go to the desert, it's hot. But if you put on clothes that reflect the sun, there's not much moisture in the atmosphere. So you don't feel as much heat and discomfort. However, where we are, there's a lot of moisture. We have Sahara dust cover that traps a lot of the air and the moisture and keeps it there, and a lot of the heat. So it's really very, very hot when you have Sahara dust. Granted, it protects us a little from hurricanes, but the bottom line is that it really does make the environment really very humid and unpleasant. And so we're going to look and see, because this is silly season and we get into drinking, we get into not really taking very good care of ourselves, and we put ourselves at risk for premature death and for precipitating illnesses that we already have, or for the debuting. Some illnesses present themselves simply because we don't know how to behave ourselves, right? Simply because we haven't taken precautions. The other thing is, because of climate change, you're going to have more floods, more rain, more bad rain. We want to know where this rain come from. And a lot of damage to property. And like I said, we are still at risk for hurricanes. Nobody will forget. Nobody wants to remember Beryl, but she's a reality that really, really turned our whole nation's life upside down, especially people of Carriacou. So there are lots of things we want to look at tonight in relation to how this place run, now that we think is carnival time.
Indeed. And a lot of the actions, a lot of our actions, I guess we don't think as well as we would normally do. You know, we don't sleep as well as we normally do. We don't eat as well as we normally do. We don't drink as well as we normally do. And so all of these things, and in a lot of instances, it's a combination of all of them. Because we go
a lot of change of our basic behaviors.
Yes, and they come together because we go to fetes all night. You know, we drink, we consume lots of alcohol. We eat the fast foods, the fried stuff and all of that, and we keep going, and these things happen days and ends.
And we drive.
We drive, you know. So
we drive after parties.
Definitely, these things happen. They happen, and then later on we realize, well, we don't feel well. We're sick, and we wonder what's going on, and we forget all that we were doing or all that we were not doing when we were supposed to be doing it. So, Doc, what I want us to do is to probably look at some of these things and more or less remind ourselves that in everything we do have a responsibility to take care of ourselves. Yes, we can fet, yes, we can play carnival, yes, we can do all that we have to do, but we must do it with our thinking cap on, as the folks would say, so that we don't run into problems down the line. you know.
Yeah, and often we also have to remember that we're not only responsible for ourselves, but if we have children and older people, if we get caught in the sandwich generation where we have parents and children, and some of us have children and grandchildren that we serve, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we have to look out for everybody and establish rules in your house as to how we're going to exist and how we're going to come out of all of this when the new year starts. Last week we talked about our children and their health, and our adolescents and their health, and how we keep them safe and healthy, and the vaccines and all the rest of it. That's a very vulnerable population, especially adolescent population, who tend to have a little more autonomy, who have a little more time to go out and do what they want, and often are unsupervised. It is important that families get together and speak and have discussions as to what should be expected of us as we go through the season, as we allow our children to hang out with their friends. There's nothing wrong with that, but you must establish standards by which your children live and behave, because we can't put them at risk. All right? So apart from making sure that you drink enough water, alcohol is still illegal under the age of 18. And if you go to Trinidad, you'll discover that when you can't drink out there until you're 25 years old, because that's the law they change into. And it might seem draconian and far, but guess what? I could understand why they think, because alcohol is one of the things that most likely to numb your capacity to make decisions. Your causes the loss of impulse control, causes the loss of inhibitions, so you can do a lot of things. So you might want to, everybody go and they're swimming in the pool. You can't swim, but you're so drunk, you jump in the pool too. Okay? You get carried away. Girls, boys in relationships, in intimate situations where anything can happen. We have seen, for example, an increase in the amount of sexually transmitted diseases and things that we never used to see, and some of the things that we can't treat, like syphilis and stuff that are very difficult to treat, and even gonorrhea, right? That are very difficult. We don't have medications to which these things respond easily as they used to in the past. But those diseases exist, and even more than they did 5 and 6 years ago. So people have to be very responsible, have to understand it's important to keep sober. Sobriety is the important factor here. I will not get drunk. And the truth is, you don't know how much it takes to make you drunk, okay? People tell you all kind of foolishness, right? Nobody really understands, because by the time you check yourself, you're drunk. Can't remember how much you drank. Unfortunately for us, alcohol is very accessible. And you see children, look at children drinking beer. Okay, so let us all be the village that takes care of our children and make sure that they're not exposed to alcohol. Parents, guardians, people who are responsible for children, you have a duty to ensure that your children are not, that they're not indulging in alcoholic beverages as part of the entertainment. And sometimes you see it when they hang out with their little friends, right? You just never know. So even for our adults, we talk about this every year at this time. We talk about alcohol consumption in people who are well, but we also talk about alcohol consumption in people who have chronic diseases like diabetes.
Yeah.
Guess what? Alcohol made from sugar, whatever sugar made from, right? So if you have diabetes, you really shouldn't be consuming alcohol. Besides, a lot of people who come here, and they're all our friends, okay? A lot of people who come to Grenada during the silly season come to have a good time. And a good time for many people means that you can become hedonistic. There's no real boundary as to the things you do. So they drink a lot, they party, like Godfrey say, and often people discontinue what is their normal healthy pattern of behavior. So they don't get up in the morning to walk as they used to do. They don't count what they eat. When they get up, they're so drunk, they just want to eat. They're so tired and burnt, or they just eat anything that's there. And often we know how we eat. We know what a bowl of oilong is. A bowl of oilong usually fits into a big old calabash, okay? Barely. Okay, we eat very large portions and we eat a lot of carbohydrate foods, highly processed products, which are convenient but are not good. So let's say I came to Grenada. I am a Grenadian and I live here. I'm whoever and I live here, and I have diabetes. I take in the morning. I might take. Let's say I'm taking Januvia or metformin, right? But I decide I want to drink. I'm not taking this. And equal with my high blood pressure. I'm not taking any medication because I can't take medication and drink because I want to drink. But you also get up in the morning and you just have anything to eat. And you don't exercise. You don't take care of your feet. You know, if you were to give yourself insulin, you don't want to give yourself insulin because you don't want to go and jam on the road and and your blood sugar drop. So a lot of what is your normal pattern and responsible behavior that helps you to control your sugar disappears. And there are going to be some of us who are not going to get back to the US or to Canada or England, where we come from, simply because we failed. So I'm going to ask us who are here, when our relatives come, please insist that they follow their normal methods of treatment, that they follow their diet, that they get a chance to go even for a 10 minutes walk in the morning if they're accustomed to walking, that they hydrated properly, and above all, that they check their blood sugar and the blood pressure. Because you can say, good man, I'm not eating. The proof of the pudding is in the juking and in the putting on your thing. You have to take your sugar checks. If you don't know, go to the pharmacy, go to the health center, go to a doctor. But you have to check your blood sugar if you don't have if you don't have a method of doing it at home, right? You have to follow up what these things are, because you will end up ill and probably dead. That's just the reality. Mm-hmm. Okay? Encourage our friends to live healthy lives while they're here. Our health sector is the system is very overloaded with patients who on a good day not taking the insulin and not doing the stuff they have to do. Try to imagine when we get an increase in population over the holidays of people, and we know that we have seen more and more chronic disease like hypertension, diabetes, heart failure, and all the complications that come with those things. All right, so let's make sure that we can support our friends and relatives who are also on medications that will actually help them to control their diseases. If you get sick, go to the doctor, please, because remember that diseases don't take vacation. Okay. The fact that you may be drinking a little extra or stressing yourself because you're partying, taking your cousins, and then when they come down to the party every night, you get a little stressed, you might find that one of these days your diabetes just shows up, even if you never had it before. So there's nothing wrong in visiting your physician or your clinic or getting your blood pressure and your blood sugar checked during that time when you are, especially drinking a lot of alcohol. Right? During that time when you're jolly fine. And do I want you to have fun? Of course I want you to have fun. But I want you to have fun in a very responsible way. And we can do this. Okay? And for the people who are not doing carnival, it's not a time to take a break. Nobody's on vacation from their wellness. No one is on vacation. So people must remember that I still need to check my sugar every day. Despite the fact that my house full of other people, I still need to eat a certain way and encourage everybody to eat the same way. I still need to go to the health center. I still need to keep my appointments with my doctor, right? And the diseases I have may not go away, certainly will not go away if I don't do what I'm supposed to do. Okay? If I change my pattern of behavior, my diseases are more likely to become worsened because I become slack about taking control. It's really a thing about maintaining control for your well-being. Coupled with all of this is the weather, the bad weather that we're likely to have. People still need to know that they have to access their health centers and their doctors' offices despite everything. If we have, for example, we may have a hurricane warning. And I think we're blessed to know that days before, we can say, hey, there's a hurricane in the general vicinity. For example, the system we're experiencing tonight is a tropical storm, but we know from 3 days ago that this system is coming. Okay? So if I don't have medications, I need to go get my medication to keep. Because you just never know whether you're going to have a flood and you would not have access to the pharmacy. Because your pharmacy might be downtown St. George's and it floods out. Or in Grenville and it floods out. right? But apart from that, you may live up in a country and can't get out to go fill your prescription. So please make sure that you always have your medications at home. It is very important that in this time of year, you want to play carnival, you might forget to go and buy it because of how your schedule is. But if your medications are at home, you actually will take them. Okay? We think about also whether we should have a hurricane, carnival or not, this is time, or some. I'm supposed to have medications. One of the first things you need to do is ensure that you fill your prescriptions, or go and ask your pharmacist to give you some medication to cover you for a week or two. If you use the same pharmacy, okay? I'm sure your pharmacist will be willing to give you medications for your chronic illnesses for a week or two if there's a disaster pending, because this season when we having fun does come with natural disasters. Let's not forget November 2023, that after all the drought at the beginning of the year, how we flooded out. Was 2023? 2024? No, 2024.
No, it wasn't 24.
Last year. Just the other day. Last year. Wasn't it?
Time goes by. I'm thinking it's 23.
So but let's remember that November when the rain came in the morning and we saw like what happened in Texas last week, right? Because you had such quick runoff, right, into the watershed. A lot of rainfall, a lot of water runs into the watershed, and everywhere got flooded. River Road flooded, wherever flooded, lots of floods. We saw floods in the south. We had a death. Let's be careful. Let's be aware. Okay. Starts to rain, follow the weather. You don't need to go outside unless you need to. Keep your children inside. You don't have to go to summer school because you think you can't. You don't have nowhere to sit at home. We still have to build back the village where we have people who look out for our children. Okay, so that's in relation to chronic disease in particular. We don't want to be losing our limbs, and because if you don't take care of yourself, your heart is going to start failing. You're going to have worse circulatory problems in your limbs and your eyes and everywhere else as a result of poor management of your diabetes. And of course, the people who come to your house, tell them, make sure you walk with your medication, and please be taking your medication, because you don't want to have to be visiting the hospital when you have a visitor in your house who actually becomes unwell. Okay. We've seen in North America in the last year, and in Canada in particular recently, an upsurge in measles. After COVID and all the discussion, I'm going to call it just that, related to COVID and vaccines, a lot of people have not been vaccinating their children as before. There's a reason why people who didn't vaccinate their children before the last 5 years could get away with it, because we had herd immunity, where you have a very large percentage of people who have been vaccinated, who take their shot, who their children are vaccinated. So if you have 5 children in a class who don't have vaccines, they can survive because you have enough immunity to go around. And apart from that, sometimes the protection, the antibodies wear off from one child to the other because of their close proximity, the physical proximity. If we drop our vaccine level below 95%, in other words, if 95 out of 100 children if less than 95 out of 100 do not have their vaccines, we are in trouble. Diseases like measles, which are very contagious, very easy to catch, and can be potentially dangerous to our children, especially since we feed them so much foolishness. Okay, their nutritional state is not in a position to protect them from little infections. If we do not vaccinate our children, we find our children are susceptible to things, because the kids in North America have not been. So again, like the same plea I made to grandparents last year, tell your daughter and your son when they're sending your grandchildren down to vaccinate them, please, because we don't want to have that problem. We don't want that children from outside bring measles. The few measles we've had in the Caribbean, and I probably know of 2 cases, whatever measles we've had in the Caribbean in the last 20 years came from outside. Were all brought in because we had such a good, we were almost able to say that we had eliminated measles. But then the anti-vaxxers came along and parents stopped taking. Unfortunately, our vaccination levels had dropped significantly after COVID. I'm going to ask parents to go back and get your children vaccinated, because all these people who come from outside, you don't know what they bring into your country. And they might have a better way of masking the diseases than your child does. Recently, they introduced 2 vaccines, one for the rotavirus and another one that is available at the thing. It keeps the children from developing pneumonias and severe colds, and it's free. If you think your child could do with it, just go over to the health center and get your vaccines. Please, I'm begging you. Okay? Especially if your children have underlying diseases like sickle cell, and children with other myeloproliferative diseases like cancers and stuff. Ask your nurse, how more can I protect my child, especially if you're going to have people coming around. Okay? And I'm not saying that they're the only foreigners, but guess what? The rules of vaccinating children in the U.S. is not the same as ours. They're laxer, and even if you say they need them to go to school, everybody have rights, without recognizing that your rights must coincide with the rights of other people to exist healthily. All right, so please let us do this. That's one of the things I want to ask us to focus on.
All right. Doc, as you as you mentioned child protection, I just wanted to kind of go back a little bit, while we in this carnival season, and I was actually looking at social media. I think it was Monday. And, you see all sorts of things. People who go out and play jab and do all sorts of things. Well, fine. You want to play jab, that's a matter for them. But, I see some things that really worry me. And when you see adults doing these things and you have little children involved in that, and young girls, little girls involved and jumping and using the kind of language that can give a certain kind of connotation, you worry, because there are predators. There are predators out there, and this is the ideal time for these predators to take advantage and seize opportunities, because no one is thinking straight.
Especially mommy's audience, you have to run.
Exactly. Now, in addition to that, you mentioned earlier about children and alcohol, and we see it happen all the time. Everybody jumping up. Some adult might give a child a beer or whatever it is, and then you never know what the intentions are. So it worries me. It really worries me when you see little girls jumping up in these jab bands with these big hardback men, and later on you hearing the cries for about abuse and all of these things.
Inappropriate
behavior. Now, Scholar has a very, very serious calypso he did. He recorded this year, and it weighed heavily on that young girl that died in Karakou, who was killed and all of that. And when you listen to that song, it really goes deep. It really goes deep. And this is someone who was not involved in that kind of behavior that we're making reference to, which goes to show that these things happen, and it's very prevalent. And when you have situations that makes it easy for these things to happen, I would love to see the authorities, the police, stepping in and preventing these children from being involved. And if it means finding the parents and taking whatever action, do it. Because mothers and fathers are supposed to be protecting these little children and not allowing that kind of thing to happen. Not that you don't want children to have fun, but there is fun and there is fun. And there are things for children and there are things for adults. I believe in that. So I cannot understand why parents think it's okay to be jumping up in your job, and you're an adult. You could do what you want, fine. You could probably protect yourself. But are you in a position to protect these little children of yours when they are, according to old people, tech with you in this kind of things? You lose control. You miss them. They disappear. I mean, you see the large crowds of people who are involved in that kind of thing. And let me tell you something. Jab is something that is very infectious. When these drums beat and it hits you.
And the chance.
Let me tell you something. I am from a place where jab was very, very prevalent in the day. And I can tell you how infectious that thing is. So I just want to put that out there because it can impact heavily on our children.
You know the RGPF, the police force, has a very impactful, very well redacted ad that is put out every year with a WPC, a woman police constable, making an appeal for parents to protect their children and to be aware of the challenges that comes with carnival. And I agree with you. I can understand your grief in seeing because I've been watching some of the clips.
I'm telling you.
You don't even have the children together. They inside of the band with the big old, like you say, big mature people.
Hardback man. I'm serious.
I'm not saying who should play jab or who shouldn't play jab. I'm not going to go that far. But I think we must have a level of consciousness that we have to apply, right, in relation to the protection, because parents have a responsibility. All the adults in the communities, or play jab as much as you want, but make sure you have the children in a special space where they can be appropriately supervised and cared for. We have our children out in the hot sun in the middle of the day, dancing a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, right? And I don't see them getting rehydration and all the rest of it. And like I said, when you drink, you lose your inhibitions. Nobody knows what you're going to do.
But that's a thing.
And you know what you're capable of.
You know, Doc, what bothers me a lot, and sometimes to the point where I get angry. Because when these things happen, you see, for example, you hear a child, a young girl gets raped or murdered, things like that. And all of a sudden, all the organizations get their volume gone up. Like they put a new battery. And I mean, you have all kinds of things to say. You have protest action, all kinds of things. And fine. But why aren't we addressing these problems from the source? That is my point. Because don't tell me they don't know that you have these children. Social media. Look, these things are all over social media. And everybody's seen it. But nothing is done, nothing is said until something bad happens. And then everybody starts to jump up.
So I want to also place the responsibility to avoid for this, especially sexual abuse of women and girls in particular, because I think that is where you're kind of getting at these young girls who don't have any protection. Even open day, whether it's day or night. We're gonna have Monday night mass soon, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I want our men, because I think we have to put a responsibility on their shoulders to understand that how easy it is to become a perpetrator when you lose your inhibition. Even if that's not your normal behavior, you now have no gauge because you've drank so much and probably smoked so much weed that everything is nice and sweet and high, right? And you don't remember that you're not supposed to touch little girls. You're not supposed to entice them into inappropriate behaviors.
Totally agree.
Supposed to practice.
I totally agree.
To practice appropriate behavior. So I want our men. I think we need to speak to our men so they understand that they have a responsibility to protect our young women and our old women and whoever they meet on the street to keep your sobriety to the point where you can make decisions not only for your safety but also for the safety of the people who are reveling with you. Because I think we keep saying, oh, police should do this, mother should do this. But guess what? The men who will become perpetrators, and you can become a perpetrator without having normally bad behavior. It's just that you're so disinhibited that you don't know that you're behaving inappropriately. You cannot make decisions. And a lot of your activities, like we say, are very impulsive. So I'm going to ask our men to speak to each other, to talk about how, and you don't even have to drink, just being high on the music and stuff can make you lose inhibitions. The lyrics to the music, what they tell you to do and what not to do, you
the
can
instructions,
lose.
of course.
Right? And that's what we are when we high, and because people think I drink when I go party because I dance and be myself and have fun. And I tell people I don't drink, they don't believe that I'm not drunk. No, I'm not drunk. Don't fool yourself. Okay? The bottom line is that we are people who like to revel, right? But sometimes that revelry can actually can be a negative phenomena in our lives that we lose. Right? We lose the capacity to keep control over what our behaviors should be, right? Over the things that are not normal for us. But then again, everybody do it, so why not? Get into the space of hedonism.
But you see, that's a thing.
Everybody.
That's a point, Doc. And I totally agree with you that we need to speak to our men. But here's what.
We need to.
We know that these things are going to happen. We know it is going to happen. It's not that we don't know. We know it is going to happen because it happens every time. So my point here is, while we need to speak to our men and hold them accountable and responsible if they are involved in these kinds of actions, I am also as strong on the parents of our children to ensure that you protect them. Don't put them in harm's way and listen, human beings were created sexual beings and people are easily aroused. That's the way we were created. So we know these things are going to happen.
Carnival is also a time when mostly young people get engaged in revelry.
But exactly. I agree.
And young people are the ones who enjoy, without boundaries, who usually can go out there and they just really want to have fun, and they're drunk and they're out there doing it.
Let me tell you.
And they don't understand their behaviors.
And hence the reason why I didn't use the term young people, I specifically and intentionally used children. Because I think there's a differentiation here. And I'm saying that based on what I have seen on social media. This is why I specifically said children. Yeah, young people could be either, according to talk, either young people, I was like, that was just a joke. But no, seriously.
I think what I find, some of our community organizations are busy scolding and judging. The church would say, "Oh, all of this, and a set of devil worshippers, and this kind of." That's not. I don't think that's the way to approach it. I think we must approach it from a standpoint of empowerment and giving people, letting people understand what their responsibilities are in a situation like that. Look, Carnival is a normal, cultural, above all, festival for us, and there are these other ramifications, right? We express ourselves in jab, short knee, wild Indian, all they have about maypole, Veco, love traditional mask, pretty mask, calypso, whatever you have, whatever you have that brings out how we express ourselves in the current time, right? That cultural thing. And I think people have a right to enjoy Carnival, but I think we have a responsibility to ensure that our enjoyment is safe.
Yes, of course.
I think we have a responsibility to ensure that there are no prisoners, so our children must not be at risk. I want to talk about Kiddies Carnival in a little while, but where children in communities, and I've seen it, where children in communities engage in whatever community activity, and that's fine, because I think it's important that we pass on the tradition of what our carnival style is, so that it goes on from generation to generation. But it also must be done in a wholesome way. Children must understand exactly what jab jab mean, why they sing what they sing, why they sing how they sing, why they dance how they dance, why we have the rhythm that we have, right? Because nobody has jab jab song like ours, okay? But it must not be a thing where people come in because children see revelry and they really don't understand. So even in communities, I think they have a responsibility to tell children, this is what the jab jab means. We have to get better every year. Every time we have a festival, we must be better. We must display ourselves better. And our children must feel safer. And our women must feel safer. And our men must feel safer and must feel more responsible. Okay? It must be a safe space that everybody can enjoy this cultural festival, because that is what it is first. That is what it is.
Well, Doc, while I agree with you, I believe, like everything else, like life in general, there are different stages. And even in cultural expression, that also has to be considered. Because not all expressions are appropriate for everybody. So there are stages, and this is why I am so strong on this, because I hate what I see sometimes, especially as it relates to children involved in certain kinds of behaviors, because it comes back to haunt you later on.
So I want to ask you, how do you think we can curb that inappropriateness? What do you think we as a people should do? What can we do? How can we make Carnival a happy place, but a safe place for everybody?
Look, it would take quite a bit, and it would have to start with, in my opinion, the authorities. There must be policies in place. There must be policies. And there are some things. There should be no compromise. There are some things there should be no compromise. I believe in that. All right? Mm-hmm. Great cultural expression, it's fine, but Doc, sometimes I look around. As I move around and I observe, I listen, and there are certain behaviors that you see and you experience in our society, in our communities. And when you seriously look at it and you consider who are involved in different kind of activities, it speaks heavily to our education system. Or maybe not the education system. It speaks to the possession, so to speak, of basic education. Because there are situations and circumstances and people whose analytical ability cutting it. It just doesn't cut it. And some people just do not understand that. And some people may not...
So what should we do as a country? Because I want Carnival to perpetuate.
Yes, but we need... You see
I want Beku and everything else. And everything.
Of course. I'm all for that. I love jab. One of the things I probably regret, and I may not be able to do it again, was not being able to play shotney. I love shotney. I always wanted to play shotney. I never had the chance. I don't think I could jump shotney now. Because, I don't think so.
But you probably have shotney for seniors, so what can I tell you?
But I love Carnival. I love mass. Look, I'm from Tivoli, and people who know Tivoli is heavily cultural.
You guys have shotney in Tivoli or jab?
Both. Some of the biggest shotney and jab bands have, origin in Tivoli. And I love it. But we have to understand and consider how we do certain things can impact our lives and the lives of others going forward. Because if we normalize certain kinds of behaviors, then where are we going? Where are we heading? Doc, you look around and more and more.
Where can we initiate the discussion? Because I also think the community has to talk about it. Let me tell you. Discussion?
We have to ensure and maybe mandate that every child has some form of a certain level of education that can impact their judgment. If you don't,
that's going to take us 2 generations.
We have to start somewhere. We already late, very late, but we have to start somewhere. And if we
do you think? Go ahead.
If we start now, let me tell you, Doc, after Hurricane Janet, if our grandparents and great-grandparents did not replant nutmeg, we'd have been a bad way today. So it's never, well, like I said, we're late, but if we start now, we would be sowing a seed that will germinate years from now into a very good tree that would bear good fruits. This is how I was going
to ask you how we got here, but I'm not going to go there. I understand what your frustration is, and it's valid.
I could tell you how we get here. Yeah, to figure out. It's a 5-letter word called votes. It's called votes.
All right, so let's move on because I can't vote. I'm an expert.
Yeah, but you see,
I'm
Doc,
alien status tonight. But seriously, I do appreciate, because I think our mental wellness, right, is impacted by the conditions, severely by the conditions in our community.
Yes.
We don't want to have at the end of Carnival, after some of us seem to have so much fun, that you have children who are ruminating because they were abused.
Exactly.
You know one of my greatest fears as a physician? Children dying in their homes and fires. And I've seen it too often where mothers leave children with candle. I want to ask you a question. When lights went at your house as a little child, right? Which was kind of often, I probably didn't have light in the early days, right? And your mother put a candle in a saucer. What you used to do with the candle?
We used to pour the candle sperm and all kind of funny thing with it.
You don't think little children who get left in their house do that too?
Of course they do. Children are listen. I have learned, in some of my studies in psychology, a lot of times, for example, you might have something, let's say, for example, in a drawer, and you will tell the child, don't go in the drawer. Well, like that, tell the child go, because what you've done now is arouse the curiosity. Take the child to the drawer, show them, look, this is what I have there. It is dangerous. If you do that, explain to the child, and by the time you finish, the child even bother that anymore.
So that's what I'm coming to, because there are a lot of other things like drinking kerosene in a bottle. Mm-hmm. Granted, most of us have electricity, so we don't have kerosene in the Fanta bottle and the Coca-Cola bottle, from which we drink Coca-Cola and Fanta on a normal day. And then the little bit of kerosene that we keep in to light the cold part or to put in a lamp if light go, we put it in a bottle. Our children see us drink, and they drink it as well. So I think I'm going to ask parents to focus on overall safety of your children, safety in the home. You don't want your children pushing stuff into the plugs, right? Because we need to educate our children from very small. First of all, nobody should be leaving their children unattended to go out, especially if they're going to a fete. Especially if they're going out there and roam and do Monday night mass and all the things that come at this silly time, right? Our children are not to be left unsupervised. Okay? They get very creative. Right? They see things on the internet, they're going to try. We don't want the children to become electrocuted. We don't want them to drink poisons. We don't want them to drink things like gramazone and kerosene and stuff, which is going to kill them. Okay? Because drinking kerosene, usually the child spits it up anyway, and you get a pneumonia, and you track everything because it's so volatile. Or even petrol. We don't want our children playing with equipment that can be dangerous, knives, saws, whatever it is, things that can cause them damage. It's exciting. I see Daddy cutting a fence with an electric saw, and he trying to get a roof from neck cut off, or he cut off a little bird on neck. Okay. We see movies and stuff. We have to have that conversation as parents with our children. We need to understand the dangers that lurk in our house. That you want to leave, you probably can leave your 10 and your 12-year-old. I don't agree with that, but still people leave those because they're bigger children and go out. All right. So the dangers in the house, you have to make your children very aware that these things exist, because mommy's going out to a party, okay, and feels she has to go to a party. And I tell you, and I made that story last. There's a lady who died in New York who's going to be buried this week. That grew up with that. She was our neighbor, and my mom had 4 kids. She had 1, and my mom will tell you, she not go nowhere unless she has something, because she's not going and watch mass if alone, despite the fact that my grandparents were there, because she saw her children and her children's safety as her responsibility, and she wouldn't go out with us unless that lady was going. So she helped her carry one of us. Do you understand? She probably leave the baby at home, but our hands were always held. And I remember having my daughter at Carnival up on my shoulder. That's where she was. Okay? No chances of her get kicked, touched, pulled, whatever in the crowd. So parents have to understand what safety means for their children. And even if the Ministry of Social Development has to do this, they're going to have to teach parents how we keep our children safe. Okay? Children might feel they get hungry night, want to light the stove, catch a house of fire, burn one another, throw a pot of hot water on each other. We have to teach parents how to ensure the safety of their children. The children should not be looking for food or warming up food when you've gone away. Right? Light the stove, try to light the oven, and the whole house blow up. Those are things that are real and they have happened, and our children have lost their lives. Mm-hmm. Okay? Climbing up on the stove when there's a kettle of hot water or a pot of hot water that you left there and you forgot you left it. And you said, I ain't cooking no soup again. Let me go because Mildred called me. I've gone and dance. I've gone and they have jab, but they have whatever it is, drum up by the crossroad. Those are the things you have to make parents, especially your younger parents, aware that you can't leave your children unsupervised. And unsupervised does not mean that the 12-year-old looks over the 8, 7, 5, and 3-year-old. No. That is not supervision. That is putting pressure on a 12-year-old to become you. A 12-year-old have no children. She doesn't have no responsibility to take care of anybody's children, and even a 12-year-old boy. And you may have a 12-year-old boy or a 13-year-old boy who's already, he's seen the world in ways that he should not have. And might want to, engage in inappropriate sexual behavior with the little ones in the house, not understanding that this is not correct. Okay? Mm-hmm. So we have to, as parents, especially our younger parents, have to take responsibility and understand what it is that our children are safe. When I want to go to party,
Doc, this is so correct. My only,
anyway.
One of my worry with that though is, whether or not many of our young parents understand that. Whether or not this is something important to them.
And that's where Ministry of Social Development comes in the whole issue of parenting, sending messages. And it's not just for the carnival season, generally, so that it becomes a habit, how I behave to ensure that my children are well. And I'm not saying don't go and play jam jam. I'm not saying don't go and party, but I'm saying your children's safety, your children's well-being. Make sure they have food. Make sure there's enough water because it's hot like the devil mother kitchen, fireside, sorry. And you have to make sure your children are safe first before you step out in your dandan. And on top of it, talking about dandan, that hyper exposure, we are too exposed as women. Okay, we put too much of our bodies out there, and I'm not talking about being raped. I'm just talking about carrying yourself at a certain level of dignity and being exemplary to your girl children in particular, and even to your boys, because I don't think young boys like to see their mothers' bodies exposed out there. She's basically wearing what she should wear in the bathroom. As a matter of fact, when she's home, she wears more clothes than when she's going outside. Right? So, we have to, as young women, and as even not so young women, figure out how am I going to represent my children when I go out there. Okay? The other thing, you go, you drink with your friends, you smoke weed, you do whatever. Are you coming back to your children? Are you going to be safe? Is there going to be an accident where you become dead or maimed so you can't get home to your children? Those are part of the things you have to consider when it comes to safety. Not just, okay, they're home with their grandmother, and that's okay. But am I going to be back to take care of my children? And if I come back, am I going to be able to take care of my children because I am safe? Am I myself going to be engaged in inappropriate sexual activity where I get STDs or get pregnant? Can I afford all of these things to happen? And all men also, again, I'm not letting you off, you have to decide how you're going to approach the women, okay? Are you going to be too drunk to make a decision as to how you approach a woman despite the fact that she's dressed, well, undressed a little too much, all right? It is a thing where we all are going to have to be responsible, okay, and say, this is what I'd like to see happen in this season. And I want everybody to have fun, but you can't be hedonistic about it. You can't go out there without boundaries. There have to be moral, social, spiritual boundaries that we maintain while having this kind of fun. It's not all the way out there. You know, it's not all the way out there. The other thing I'm concerned about is in relation to physical safety. We've had a lot of challenges with gun violence, and those big crowds do provide an environment for, I want to get a word for them. But people who do not know how to conduct themselves, especially in relation to forensic safety of other people, right? There's no need for you to carry a gun into a party. There's no need for you to carry a knife into a party, right? Because if you carry a knife, you intend to use it if the circumstance arises. If you carry any weapon into a party, you have all intentions to use it if you think the appropriate circumstances have arisen. So you go and you drink and you don't know what, and you start to curse one another, and then you get vexed and somebody tells you something wrong, and you get vexed and you stab it. And so for some reason, we have that compass that takes us straight into people's chest and into their heart and kill them. Okay? So if you think you have some level of risk that can cause you to have to need or can cause you to need to carry a weapon, I think you need to stay home. You're going to have to make a decision. You can't say, I'm going there, but I'm carrying my knife or carrying my ratchet or carrying whatever other instrument you think you can create so that you can injure physically or maim or kill another human being. That's not how the fun is. That's not where the happiness is. And when an incident like that occurs in one event, it also dampens. Where's your responsibility for the rest of the revelers? Where's your respect for the other people who come just to want to dance to Toussaint and Ramage, as we say? Where is our respect for each other? And that's part of the thing that's one of the things you have to consider when we're having fun. Don't come and tell me inappropriate words. Don't say things that's wrong to me. Don't make me have to bring my boyfriend and box it down. You understand what I'm saying? Because it happens like that, because people lose their inhibitions. So I think people, when you go out, you need to know, okay, what am I doing? I'm going out. I know I get drunk. Well, probably after 3 I already can't manage it. You're not even sure. It was at 2, believe it or not. But by the third one, you take a little time to soak up, and then by the time you catch yourself, you're really out of it. Okay? You cannot make a decision. You cannot argue. You cannot rationalize. You really are going to be quarrelsome. They're going to be what we call belligerent, really crazy and confused and uncontrollable, right, at that time. So everybody has to know, when I'm going out there, I don't intend to get involved in anything that is, a little raucous. It happens, you leave. It happens, you leave. Always consider, especially if you have children, my children at home need to see me there in the morning. Or when I go, they need to see me back at the house in the afternoon. So we need to know when it's not time. We have a bad habit of buying out arguments. Everybody sees, everybody gets inside, and it has nothing to do with you, right? And sometimes the people who get injured and killed were not even the people who were fighting.
Yep.
Or who had a difference, right? If you think an environment is going to be unhealthy and unsafe, there's no need to be there. Trust me, there will be other parties.
Indeed.
I want to talk about Kiddies Carnival because, Godfrey, you've been insinuating all along that we should put our children in an environment in which they are. I really would like to see, first of all, more children participating in Kiddies Carnival because I think it's a good environment for them. But I want us to remember a couple of things. It's very hot. I want to see parents as marshals on the periphery. So where the children are dancing in the street, I want to see parents standing there and making sure that your children are safe, physically and otherwise. That the clothes they have are not too hot, not too tight, right? Not too heavy, the costumes that they carry. So it must be a happy experience, okay, for the children who are playing carnival. And big people, don't go in a band. And little children will have differences. I've seen people go into the band and want to fight with little children who were their grandchildren because two children have a difference. We have to find a way to diffuse conflict, right? Especially among children, and to teach them, because those are teachable moments for them. Make sure your children have water. Make sure they have a little bit of rehydration, something. So you can have like ginger ale, coconut water, other things, but be there on the periphery. It's nice seeing the 2-year-olds and the 3-year-olds dancing, but sometimes they need a little raise, okay? Lift them up, get them a little jockey. You can put them back down when you get to judging, but they get very tired. The route is long. That is a route. Usually the carnival routes that the children dance and people dance is distance that we don't walk on a normal day. Okay?
No, it's true.
We do not walk on a normal day, right? So the children they're having fun and they dance and they behave bad, and that's all right. But what I'm saying is that is routes we don't walk on a normal day. So make sure your children's shoes are comfortable. Right? We want them to wear pretty sneakers, but guess what? You can't put a size 5 foot in a size 4 sneaker because you become Cinderella's sister then, okay? And it's unfair because as the children go along, their feet are going to expand a little. So put them in shoes that are comfortable, all right? Put them in costumes that don't scratch and not too hot. And please, people who plan carnival, please don't give the children them horrible, scratchy outfits. It's pretty because they have sequins and stuff on it, but please, it scratches their skin, it scratches the daylights out of them, right? And that is not a good experience, all right? Walk next to your children, please, I beg you. Make sure you walk alongside the band and you can see your child at all times, okay? People who plan children's carnival, make sure that you have marshals of their gender for the most part, because sometimes you have sections that have girls and boys. Make sure that the children are safe. I beg you, do. Please do. Right? Make sure the streets are clean, they don't have potholes, so kids don't fall and hurt themselves, and other revelers as well. But I want to see our children. I want to see Kiddies Carnival go back to when I was a child, and you have bands, and you have enough children on the road, and all the rest of it. Because it's important that they take the tradition on. But it must be in an environment of having fun, right? Make sure your child has something to eat, okay? They burn out all the energy fast because their body already working overtime. When they're on the street dancing, find something for them to eat, okay? And the people who have bands must make sure that the children, I know they provide with alcohol and stuff for the big people, don't know why, but the bottom line is that the children still need a little bit of nutrition and still need to be kept cool, all right? So parents, be there. be there and make sure that your children are safe and encourage them to have good fun. This is just part of our cultural tradition that our children can go out and play whatever character is appropriate, wear nice costumes, and feel good that they contributed to this this carnival, this fabulous time that we can all have.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally agree. As I said earlier, you'd recall, there are things for children and there are things for adults. So we have Kiddies Carnival for the children. So why not probably find a way to expand it, make it bigger, get more children involved in Kiddies Carnival.
Yeah, get more sponsorship.
Yeah, rather than having them...
People don't sponsor Kiddies Carnival as much because they can't sponsor it with rum.
But I'm sure they are.
With the other big carnival, they can sponsor it with alcoholic beverages because the people there can, but you can't sponsor it, and they're going to buy the rum anyway. The companies will make back their money.
I think if the promoters do a good job in ensuring that the sponsors can get value and get benefit and gain from it, I'm sure they will. But
no man, sponsors want the inebriating beverages to be sold at the events that they sponsor. So it's not going to work out.
But I yes, that is the case. But Doc, we say to ourselves, people eat a lot, people eat all kind of thing on carnival time. So if as a promoter you understand what is happening, then you would know who to target and how to do your stuff and get people involved.
This is probably a good time to segue into food safety.
Mm-hmm.
The Ministry of Health, Environmental Health Department in particular, insists that everybody who sells food on the street during Carnival are, first of all, certified food handlers. Okay? You have to go see a doctor. There are a couple of tests that you must do that must come back negative. Okay? Like a stool test, for example, to make sure you don't have bacteria that can and stuff in your stool that can cause it to pass on worms and other stuff to and other parasites to people. Okay, and that you generally enjoy good health. But the environmental health people also teach us how to make sure that the food is safe, because food safety is a big thing. So you can't cook a pot of soup from 4 o'clock in the morning, come down from Grenville to St. George's with it, and don't have any way to keep it kindling. You understand? So the soup is always hot and that bacteria don't grow. Chicken is one of the things that have quick bacterial growth. Okay? So you can't thaw out your chicken for 2 days and have it there. And even if you season it, just have it there on the counter, because bacteria will grow in the deeper parts. Right? Those are things that you're going to be taught how to prepare and how to handle foods. Right? If you have stuff that needs to be kept in cool spaces, you must have the appropriate refrigeration. So like people who do seafood and all of that must know that they have to be kept at a certain temperature. We have to learn all of this. And I'm going to tell the 110,000 of us sitting here, when you go to St. George's or Grenville or St. David's, St. Patrick's, wherever you have big carnival, wherever you have carnival and people are selling food, you ask them to show you their food handler's permit, because I can guarantee you there'll be 5 other people up the road who have food handler's permit. Maybe their jerk chicken not going to taste as nice, but it don't matter. You're not going to have diarrhea at the end of the day. Okay? You're not going to have challenges at the end of the day. And especially when you're out to procure food for your children.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We already have too much drunk people and too much people with uncontrolled diabetes and hypertension coming to the hospital to want to have people who have diarrheal diseases, who have vomiting and gastro and food poisoning and all the rest of it. So I'm going to ask the people who are going to who want to sell food, and we all make a little money. Guess what? Make sure that you do it the correct way. And I'm going to ask the people who are patrons to ask the people to show you the food handlers, the valid food handlers permit, right? And I'm going to ask the Ministry of Health, Environmental Health Department to insist that they step up the ante. They are often on the road, if you go to places and see the environmental health officers going from one stall to the other, okay? So to ensure that they don't get infected, but you, the patron, you, the buyer, also have to make sure and say, hey, you didn't wash your hand. Right? Make sure that the person have access to that bathroom, right? There was a case last year in another country where the woman selling crab was going out to the crab shell and
yes.
stuff, right? And she's actually back. But we must make sure the Environmental Health Department and the Tourism Authority and Carnival Spice Mass must provide appropriate bathroom facilities for the 20,000 of us who in town on Juve and on other days. That's a responsibility. I think is a dignifying thing to do. You should not come into town and have to catch up in a corner to do number 1 or 2, nor should your children. There should be appropriate porta potties along the road, and we must have alcohol to clean our hands. You can get wipes, you can get other things. We must make sure that we keep our hands clean, because there's a lot of bacteria and a lot of infection to go around. So make sure you have your little sanitizer in your pouch, wherever you put your rum or whatever it is. Make sure your hands are clean. You meet a lot of people, you hold a lot of hands, you do not know what they have. Okay, so making sure you don't get infectious diseases that come from gastrointestinal, that are related to your gastrointestinal tract, where your food goes and where your food comes out. Make sure that there's a place. Use bathrooms to pass urine. Women, when you go into the bathroom, make sure there's somebody with you. Okay, because sometimes when you look at tights and you need somebody to kind of guard the door while you're inside there, and for your own safety. Look at tight, I don't know, the string things that the dental floss costumes that some of our women wear. Make sure that there's somebody accompanying you to the bathroom for your own safety, okay, your physical safety. And that, somebody, you just want to know that somebody's there, they can watch the door, and you can be able to do whatever you have to do in a comfortable way, and make sure you clean your hands when you come out. So those are some of the things I want to say, right? I want to say, remember, it may rain. If it rains, stay at your yard. If it rains, stay at your house. If it's too hot, walk with an umbrella. Nothing is wrong with protecting yourself, because we want to see September morning when our children go out to school.
Yes, indeed. Well, Doc, we practically out of time, but I just want to, close by reminding, our parents or adults, so to speak, that look, let's avoid as much as possible having our children involved in some of these activities where the truth and in fact where they don't belong. The level of obscenities that are used, the kind of actions we see, it's just no place for our children. It's bothering. So I just want to appeal. People play mass, they play jab, they play all different things at carnival time. As Doc, you said, it's cultural expression. I have no problem with that. But there are children things and there are adult things. And let adults stick with adult stuff and children stick with children stuff. That way they don't cross paths and we won't have any problems down the line. I mean, we probably will, but what will happen, we will significantly minimize the amount. And I think that is important. So again, I just want to appeal to all,
So there's another thing that we forgot to mention, and that's the issue of noise.
Well,
the issue of noise. It kind of was a noisy time, but I'm going to ask parents that when you have your little children, your little ones, you could go watch carnival and take your baby, but please put on a noise reducer on the baby's ear. It's not good for the child's eardrum. and I'm going to ask the people who make party, kind of understand that sometimes you do party in communities where people who don't really enjoy carnival live, and they have a right to go to bed in the night and sleep. That as far as possible, we turn the music away from where the community is going to be bombarded every night. And that also there often limits on the time on which activities can go on, right? And we must respect our fellow citizens and make sure that I don't want to play carnival. I don't want to hear carnival music. That's also my right. Do you understand? So please make sure that the people who produce noise, that you are very careful as to who gets affected by the noise. If people want to come and dance, that's fine. Find a park where they could dance in a park and you turn the music that direction, and they don't have it. I've heard the nurses in the hospital complain bitterly about having sessions and the music is out towards the sea, but on the receiving end is the hospital. So you can't hear when the patients call, you can't hear. You can hardly hear to talk to the patients. Patients don't get a chance to sleep, and all the rest of it. So we really want to make sure that there's mutual respect expressed, and that all of us have fun. Okay, as far as possible, event planners must take it to a space where other people who are not interested in activity that you plan are not affected by it.
Doc, I think that is an issue that could be dealt with quite easily. And I think it rests squarely in the hands of the police. I do believe that there are some communities where the police just should not grant permission to hold some of these activities.
Events, yeah.
You have
also there are other issues of safety. The other issues of safety. Remember something last year? What happened last year? Wasn't last year the year before? When they had something in Grenville, in St. Andrew, and people couldn't get out, and people wanted to leave. They had an incident, like a violent incident. They had gunshots.
Let me give you an example. And that is extreme. I'll give you an example. A couple of weeks ago, I came from work, going home, at that time in the night, and it's pouring rain. And there is an activity in a little junction. Half of the road is lined with vehicles parked. And on my way, there is an oncoming vehicle. So I now have to reverse. In pouring rain, I cannot see in a little space like that. I mean, it's just not right.
That's a point I was going to make in relation to event planners, promoters, whatever you want to call them. When you're doing an event, I want us to take into consideration the climatic changes we are experiencing. So when rainfall is going to fall heavier, right? You have to consider the amount of people. You have to consider the amount of people you can get into a space. It's safe. Because that's part of the thing the police should be. Parking. Almost everybody have a car. You go to a party, you see 60 cars, and it's 40 people in the party. Okay? You see a lot of vehicles. A lot of people don't think. Everybody wants to park and take up as much space as possible because everybody wants to leave first. So they jam up the space. So you must make sure there's appropriate parking when you plan any activity. But more than that, you must make sure that your patrons have safe if it starts rain, that the river is not going to overrun its bank. That when they're leaving the park or wherever they are, whichever area they are, that people are not going to be breaking their feet, right? Because there's so much mud and slush that they have to slide down in. That no swamp is formed, and we've seen it. Some people like the swamp for the rain because rainfall in Carnival week, but it is also unsafe, right? It's also unsafe, and it uses too much of our natural resources, right? That it is safe for people to leave when they want to leave, and if they need to leave hurriedly. So if there were an event the emergency services can get in and out without encumbrances, and the people who want to leave now must be able to leave in an organized fashion. I'm going to ask people to try your best not to create any sense of chaos and panic when a situation occurs, so that everybody can leave in a timely and organized fashion, so there's not further disaster. If you hear it's going to rain, there's going to be a storm, stay in your house, because it's going to rain and it's going to be disastrous. We don't want our emergency services coming out there and putting people at risk because you decide that you must go out.
The other thing is, look, as you said, everybody have rights. People work at all different times. I mean, imagine someone coming from work late at night. You want to get home, you're tired, you're sleepy, and I mean, it's just not right. And I think the police...
Where you put your events must ensure that there's no encumbrances on the road.
But the police must be able to flow. The police needs to ensure... You cannot... Look, it's a simple thing. There are some areas... Look, we're not granting permission to have these kinds of activities. There are lots of other places. There are open areas where you can plan, you can have your activities. It might... it's a lot more appropriate. You might even have the opportunity to have extra time. But in a small community where you seriously impede the smooth flow of traffic.
You can always do park and walk. You can always do park and drive or park and walk. When people park outside and come in, there are lots of vehicles, and there's some very poor drivers in this place who don't understand that them can't drive and shouldn't be behind a vehicle, because that is ready to commit vehicular homicide. But that's for another space.
Yeah, indeed.
We're almost all the time.
We are actually. Yes. Yeah. So
look, there's a lot said here tonight. I want us to remember that everyone has responsibility for themselves, making sure your granny's safe. If you're going to leave at home in the night, making sure your children safe, make sure your house is safe, that you can lock your house. And if you might have an older cousin who comes to stay with your kids, but make sure your children are safe inside and safe to get out should something happen. You just never know what will happen. Okay? Make sure that you don't drink if you're the driver. There's still a designated driver responsibility. Make sure that when you get out there, you go to a safe environment, that we protect our children, that children's activities are separate and safe for children, because safety is what it is. With climate change, look out for if you have to cross a river, a bridge. If you have to go to Grenville and have to go to the Granite Town, you have to cross Balthazar Bridge. You don't want to be going across the bridge and the river coming down.
But not only that, you have landslides and all of these things. There's a lot to consider. There's a lot to consider
of what your environment is, because we do have a lot of challenges with rain falling. Yes. Okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask us to, above all, yes, I want everybody to have fun, but I want you to have fun within a safe space in your head, in your family, on the street. If you have a gun, leave it at your yard. If you think you need to carry a knife, stay in your house. Watch it on TV. There's no need to go there and shorten our lives. If you have medications that you take, if you have chronic illnesses, if you have injury of any kind, stay home. Guess what? Missing Carnival is not going to kill us. And all the other activities that happen now. There are some safe environments. You can go to Calypso tents and stuff. But if you think you're going to look war, I think you should stay home.
Yes,
right?
Indeed.
If you think you're going to look for revenge from somebody and you think you're going to be there, think again. Go find somebody to talk to. I'm going to ask our community leaders to really impress on our communities what safety should mean for all of us. At the end of Carnival, we should all be happy and we should all come out unscathed. Okay?
Yes.
Women who are going to be half-clothed, remember there are a lot of mosquitoes and there's still dengue, chikungunya, and other things that exist. Please protect your children when they're going to go out. Protect yourselves if you're going to wear scant clothing, because those things exist. Okay? Hot soup can fall on you. Just be very, very careful. Too many genders that are there. And remember to charge the people who give you food to make sure that they are properly trained. And remember, you buy food just in case you get sick. You can always go and report it to the Ministry of Environmental Health after that.
Yeah.
Or you can find because we want to be safe.
Okay. Well, folks, that's all the time we have tonight. Doc, thank you so very much. Thank you to all our listeners, our viewers. It was indeed a pleasure. And again, be safe, this carnival season. Join me tomorrow evening, Kaiso Talk. We'll be having having the guys from the Kaisobads tent with us. A lot to chat about. To have a good night and all the best.